Well, welcome. Oh, Samantha. It is so wonderful to have you on my podcast. I am so excited. I have not stopped thinking about our tour. Ah, my gosh, I loved Africa so much. Welcome. Welcome to the show. You know, it is so wonderful to have you. And I want to talk about Africa, but I want to talk about you first. You are such a big part of why we loved Africa so much. But I think you have a beautiful story, and I think it's so interesting about your parents and how you grew up. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what it was like growing up in Africa for you?
Yeah, not at all. I don't mind sharing, but Suzanne, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on your podcast. And firstly, this means the world to me, and I really enjoyed traveling with you. It was an amazing journey.
Thank
But
you.
I'll start off by telling you my story
Okay.
and basically who I am. Like I mentioned earlier when I had first met you, that my story is a huge controversial discussion because I come from two backgrounds. So
Mhm.
my dad being black Mozambican, so he spoke Portuguese. So the Portuguese had actually colonized Mozambique, and my mom was Dutch Cape Malay. So that was a different mixture as well, and she came from Cape Town.
Okay.
So when these two first met, it was love at first sight for them. And during the time of apartheid, because that's when I grew up,
Mhm.
they basically, that's when they met. My dad ran away from home at the age of 14. Because, life in Africa, I don't think many people know. Africa has been known as the dark continent. It is a place where the struggles are real. And at a very tender young age, you had to raise yourself and grow up. So he decided he's going to leave Mozambique and headed for South Africa, where he met a Dutch family. He became the gardener for them. He would take care of the gardening and make sure that everything was taken care of. Until the age of 21, they took care of him. They taught him how to speak two different languages, that's English as well as Afrikaans. And on one morning, they were during the time of apartheid. There were two streets, a street for white people and a street for black people. So if you were going on this major street for white people, you needed a passport, like a passport.
Really?
And that morning, he was going to pick up some supplies, and that's where he met my mom. So when
Really?
he met my mom, it was like they couldn't have a conversation because he was on a different street. But their eyes just locked, and they knew that this was it for them. So secretly, they arranged to meet, and you know, uh, continued to get to sneak around and meet one another until eventually they
Wow.
decided they're going to elope.
Okay.
And that's when they decided to leave South Africa. But my mom's dad,
Okay.
did not approve of the relationship. So he decided it's not going to happen. So they said they're going to run, and they left and made their way for southern Rhodesia. And this is Zimbabwe, and this is where I am now.
Okay.
It's an amazing story. I could go on about it. They eventually had me,
Mhm.
and still they had to keep moving because I grew up literally moving from country to country. So sorry,
It's very hot there. Can we
it
talk about
is.
that? It is
It
so
is.
hot in Africa right now, and I'm so sorry.
It is. I'm sorry about that. So they left South Africa and ended up in Botswana. When they got to Botswana, the tribal groups were so different that they could not stay because you had to try to fit in every country.
Right.
So Africa has 1,000 languages, and that's something that people don't know much about. We have 52 countries with 1,000 languages. So whichever country you go to, there's a language.
Right.
So you've got to fit in. So it became difficult for them, and they decided to leave again. At this time, my dad had already found employment on the railroad, So he was the one putting on the rail tracks, and it worked very long hours putting down the rail tracks. I remember coming, when I first got into school, I'd go to a boarding school. When I'd get home, my mom would say, go spend the day with your dad. And he'd put me on this push cart, and it would go up, he'll be pumping this cart and going along the railroad, find an area where you're going to stop and he'll start working. And that will be from early morning until the late evening. So, yes, and he decided to leave Botswana. It's not working out. We ended up going into into southern Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. At the age of 7, my mom had to take the reins now because it was getting difficult. They still weren't allowed to be together. My dad decided to change our name from Lunga, because my African name is Lunga, to Lunga. Johnson.
Okay. To Johnson.
Yes.
Thinking that would help.
That would help. So every time he picked up the phone and said, hello, I'm Mr. Johnson, but he had very good English. Yeah. So he would sometimes, gain some points there, and most probably he needed paperwork signed, and my mom would go in and sign the paperwork. But literally to be seen together during the time of apartheid, whichever country you went into in Southern Africa was not allowed. So they'd have huge signs, to say whites only, blacks only. So that made it difficult. My mom used to go into a store and she used to leave me outside because of the color of my skin.
Yes.
So for me, being of mixed race, I wasn't afforded much. I had even on my passport or my driver's license, my birth certificate, everything was 00 at the end. 00, which meant that you've got no status at all. So you were not acknowledged. So it was basically you were more like an alien, and that's how it was. So she worked in a laundromat to send me to boarding school, and my dad on the railroad. And eventually, with the help of people like Nelson Mandela in 1994, apartheid, eventually started going. I always say it left, but it didn't leave. It's just in the air. It's waiting to erupt again. And that's how I look at it. And yes, she fought the education system for me to get into school, because I wasn't allowed to go to Group A school. Okay. I was only allowed to go to a Group C school because of the color of my skin, being of mixed race. So that was a time when they put a pencil in your hair, and if it fell out, you'd go to Group A. And if it stayed in your hair, you'd go to a Group C school. And that's during that time. So yes, the pencil stayed in my hair. So they decided Group C. So my mom fought the system. But lucky for us, the Minister of Education at the time, his name was Senator Kavawal, he accepted me. So I was the first non-white to go to my school. And that was very, very, it was more of, for me, I couldn't understand it because I was only age 7 at the time.
Okay.
And for my parents, wow, what a breakthrough, for them to actually have got, made it through that system. But going to school, it wasn't for me. I was so used of being aproned by my mom. Mm-hmm. She would always shield me, mm-hmm. and that was my protection. Mm-hmm. So when she let me go and said, now you're going to boarding school, and I just didn't know where to begin. What do I tell them about how I look and who I am? Mm-hmm. And the decision now was, I didn't tell anybody that when I went to school, the Minister of Education himself, he took me to school. I didn't tell them that he was not my, I said he was my dad. So I thought, oh, she's the minister's daughter. So that's how I gained some merit in school, because either you'd get spat on or, you'd get beaten behind the bushes because of who you were. Right. But it made me stronger. But going through that time in school made me also, it drew me to one direction. And that was mainly to the white side, which is the Dutch side of my family. Okay. And my mom, when I got home, I never had time for my dad. I only had time for my mother.
Okay.
because of the division in school. Because in school they actually taught you to dislike
Yeah.
you know color. So if you were darker than white, they would tell you, that was not good. And when I got home, my mom said, "That's not happening here." So she sent me to an African school,
She
and
did.
that's where I got my balance. She did.
You
She
had
took me to
both.
the all. I had both. So I learned how the African culture and schooling, and then I had the education system that
Right.
was under the British law, and that strengthened me so much more. And I managed to get over that hurdle, and the rest was just like I got a very, very good education.
You
And
did.
my mom wanted to know what am I going to do with it, but
Okay.
she wanted me to be a doctor, a lawyer. But at the end of the day, I said no. I want to be a guide. You know, and that's because when I'd get home, I would watch so much of the animals, and when
Yes.
I look at the animals, that's where I got my peace. I'd see elephants, baboons, I'd see, lions. And when I'd look at them and just see how, just the dynamics, family dynamics, I loved it. And that's what I wanted to do. And she was so against it and didn't understand why. And yeah, she raised me to say, if you want to do that, then you're going to be on your own. You've got to work hard, and I did.
And you
I
did.
decided, yeah, I decided I'm going to go to college. I'm going to study 7 years for it, and I did. I got my degree, and this is where I am today. I'd say 27 years later, I'm still in the industry, loving every minute of it. I really do.
It's remarkable. You're all of the hurdles that you had to overcome is more than most people in the whole world ever have to deal with. And it is so lovely that now you get to share your beloved Africa with all of these
Yeah.
people who are coming. And the concept of Africa, it's so big. And I don't mean geographically, but it is such a big destination. We were together on Colette's, let's see if I can get this right, Southern Africa Wilderness Safari by land and by water. And
And
that tour was
water,
so
yes.
did I say that right? By land and by water.
Yes, wilderness of Southern Africa, amazing trip.
Holy
Yes, the
cow.
wilderness of Southern Africa.
And we were in South Africa, we were in Zimbabwe, and we were in Botswana. And I think people get
Yes,
confused that South Africa is actually a country. So we started there in Johannesburg, and then we flew to Victoria Falls, and then we were in Botswana, and then we were
yes,
on Lake Kariba. But
yes,
in that, what I didn't understand, and you're talking about the animals, what I did not understand is that the animals are part of your life in Africa. They
yes,
walk down the street
yes,
in the middle of Victoria Falls. When I'm skipping around on this tour, but
yes,
our wonderful bus driver was amazing, and he was so knowledgeable because he lived in Victoria Falls. He goes, "Oh, the elephants came
yes,
to town last night. Can you see that fence post that's on the ground and the bushes that are trampled?" I didn't understand how Africans live with the animals. They're not so much in the
yes.
distance. They're a part of your life.
Oh, absolutely. Everyday life. I tell
Yes.
you, we literally grew up. That's why I said my peace came because my journey, the way I had to grow up raising myself.
Mhm.
Because when I lost both my parents, my mom died at the age of 50, and then my dad of prostate cancer, diabetes. But from there, I had to now face the world, and my peace
Yeah.
came from the wild, just being in the wilderness with the animals and
Just
just looking at them and watching them. Even at home, they come and
who says
one,
that?
yeah. One day I heard the rustling outside. I opened the drapes, and there these two huge long legs were outside my window. and he was eating my plants. And so then I knew, okay, they're around. And so they're there. And that's the beauty of Africa. It is, you can't explain it to anybody. You've got to come
You do.
like you did.
You do.
You've got to come and experience it and then tell your story through that. Because it's just absolutely incredible.
It's true. So we fly to Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, which I thought was magical. But we're on our way to Chobe National Park. And I didn't understand any of this geography before we left. So we're just meeting you and we're on the bus and we're on what is a highway. And there's a herd of elephants just on the highway. And I think that's the greatest thing I've ever seen, right? The bus driver pulls over. We're all taking pictures. Little do I know that we are now going to be at this resort with this beautiful wood and carving and lovely people on this river. And I'm going to see
Beautiful.
a lion, 10 yards away. And I'm going within minutes of driving into the national park. Can you explain a little bit about the national parks? I didn't know it was going to be so close. Oh my God.
The national parks are absolutely amazing. When we got to Chobe National Park is actually, I would say, in Southern Africa, one of the largest national parks.
It is.
It's actually 11,700 square kilometers in size. It is massive, but beautiful because you've got the amazing Chobe River that will flow through the national park. And then it joins onto the Zambezi River. The Zambezi River then flows into the Indian Ocean. And that's where it eventually will stop. But this beauty of water starts in the Angolan highlands and just flows through these national parks. So it is a home, Chobe National Park, to over 70,000 elephants. That's how many there are now. Prides of lions, bird life. Oh my goodness, if you're a birder, that is like, we've got 450 species of birds alone.
Yes.
So, it is incredible because everywhere you look, it's never going to disappoint because you've got giraffe, you've got zebra, you've got kudu, impalas, up to the little ones, the guinea hens, the game birds. So it is just it's the peace and, the tranquility that you feel when you're actually driving by. And for me, what warms my heart is when you see your first impala. You're like, oh, there's an impala, but you don't know what's in store for you. There's so much more coming.
I thought that was the greatest thing ever.
So this impalas. And, there's just so much more. There's these huge herds of elephants. There's prides of lions. The leopard. Oh, my goodness. And the way we saw the leopard when we were together, it was just laying there, that was just mind-blowing.
To see them, unless you do this, you don't really understand how you see them or how close you see them. Now, we went, which although it was hot, I was really happy at the time of year that we went because the foliage was off the trees, off the deciduous trees, and you could see the animals so well. I mean, and here's the other part that's so interesting. The guides are driving and they are so knowledgeable. They do this day in and day out, and they know where the animals are. They know their behaviors. They understand everything. And we pull into, first we see the lions who are kind of laying around on the sand because they've had a big meal. And in the distance, you can see that unfortunately an elephant was killed. But we were watching them feeding the lion, or there was one or two over there. But also what we saw were the birds that are hanging out in the trees above. And you're seeing this, not to be cliche, the circle of life, where you're seeing the hierarchy of these animals.
Yes.
To be able to experience that.
Yes, the cycle of life. We had the vultures.
Yes.
And then we had the marabou storks. And the hyenas would come in to finish, So that was absolutely incredible.
I know.
It's a once in a lifetime, to get to see that is something that you'd carry with you for the rest of your life, because it was that, the only way to describe it is like, wow. And sometimes, you pinch yourself, am I really in Africa?
You kept
To get to
saying
see that.
Although what's fun is there's such a mix on this, and I know you had a hand in this. There's a mix of luxury. There's a mix of reality. There's a mix of meeting local people. I want to talk a little bit about how we stayed and where we went. And then I want to talk about some of the special people that we met on the way.
Yes.
So we started in Chobe, which is in Botswana.
Yes.
And that was a beautiful lodge. That was a hotel, a hotel-like feel. That the food is fantastic. There's lots of variety. There's lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and grilled meats. And I loved that. And I think people don't understand, what am I going to be eating? Am I eating just African dishes? No. But what's fun is they do offer African dishes. Yes. And so we can try them all. So then we moved to Iganyana? No.
Iganyana, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we did. Iganyana tented camp. That was like, oh my goodness.
Okay. So that will go down in history as the most remarkable night of my life. And I'm telling you all this now because you're going to hear about this a lot. If you listen to the first episode on Africa, Craig and I talked about this at length, but and you can go back and listen. So we're sitting at this beautiful luxury tented camp, and Terry does an amazing job, and his staff. When I say luxury, it's still a tent, but it has a cement foundation and beautiful furnishings and netting and all of that. So we're okay. So I backtrack. We're sitting around this campfire and we're all getting to know each other, and you've got your back to the plains behind you, the open plains. We're all getting to know each other, and up walks 14 elephants, kind of like silently.
Yes, you can hardly hear them.
You didn't hear them at all.
You can hardly hear them.
Can't hear them.
You can't. Yeah. I just heard a little twig behind me crack, and I knew there's something behind me. So I just turned my head a bit, because that's when we were all getting to know one another, like introductions and just chatting around the fire. And when I heard that twig, I knew. I just turned around and they were coming. They were right behind me.
I couldn't believe it.
Incredible.
And it was dark. It was now dusk, and then it became dark.
Yeah.
But Terry, the owner of the camp, he says, go over to the pool because they're going to come to the pool next. And I'm like, what? Yeah. So I go over to the pool. He says, take off your sandals, sit on the edge of the pool, and they will come. And I said, oh, I don't think I can do that. he says, oh, yes, you can. You're perfectly safe. You need to do this. So he goes, hand me your phone. So I go over and I do it, and I sit there, and then Craig joins me. And Sam, I dream about that. I think about it. I think about this tour. I don't think I've ever been touched this deeply from a tour experience, from a travel experience. Yeah. Do other people say that? They must.
Do you know? Absolutely. Because it really, it's so embedded in you, at the experience, that where in the world can you get that type of an experience? I mean, when I saw you sitting there, you were like, I don't know how many feet, maybe 5 or 10. You were right there, and you were having your dessert as well, I think. So you're right there, right by where they were. It was amazing. The only thing that was left was to get into the pool while they were drinking. And we could have, but I don't think anybody brought a bathing suit or anything at the time. It was remarkable.
Yeah, it was more than I could handle. I think sitting there was so remarkable. But what I loved about this tour also was every day was a surprise. So we really got to know our fellow travelers, the small group with 18 of us. I loved every single person on this tour. They were lovely. We all got along super well. We're having, tea in the bush in the morning on our morning game drive. And then at times we had gin and tonics in the bush
Yes.
in the afternoon at sunset. Come on.
Yes.
We just kept pinching ourselves. And we
I
kept
know.
thinking, and you just pulled out surprise after surprise after
Surprise. Yeah.
Every day we thought, no, this is the best day. No, this is the best day. And then the
I
next day,
agree.
you did something else for us.
I tell you, we always ask ourselves how we're going to top the next day, because it just kept on. And that's what I like about Africa.
Yeah.
You allow it to unfold. Just allow it to give. You will be so amazed. By the time you're ready to go home, it's like, wow. And time goes so fast when you're having so much fun.
It was so sad. So sad. And it's interesting. We've been talking now for already 25 minutes, and we could do this for another hour. But I want to talk about, everyone is going to be able to see my photos, and they're going to be hearing about this over and over.
Yes.
But let's talk about the people. Do you want to talk about King's Camp and Lake Kariba and what you were able to do for us?
Yes.
That was a magical experience for me.
Wow. I'd say, Africa is not Africa without its people.
Correct.
So, yes, we come to see the wildlife, but what makes Africa is the people. And that is what, that is what just my passion to get to connect you one-on-one with the local people is an absolute must, because they are the faces of Africa. And that's what I love about it. The people are just warm wherever you go in Africa because of our culture, and the traditions that we have. You get to see the true Africans and authentic. So we're not going to stage anything.
Nope.
So we're going to give it to you exactly the way it is. A lot of times people think, oh, maybe we're still wearing animal skins. No, we're now in what we call also, with times changing, modern Africa.
Okay.
But just to get to hear people's story and where they came from is what changes people's lives. So as much as we want to change your life, you change our lives as well by getting to meet them and get to hear about them. They're proud of their heritage, number one. They want to tell you about their culture. They want to introduce you to the cuisine and what the type of foods we eat, our tradition, because we're still people that believe in so many things, and and we're still doing it because of our ancestors. So it's very hard to leave that part of our culture behind. So it's so great to get in there and see how we live, how we construct our homes. We still, make our homes out of the termite mounds. We going and get these termite-resistant wood. It's still so authentic that it is a must to get to see it and get to interact with them.
Exactly.
So that's the best part.
I love that part. And everywhere we went, no matter what country, no matter what city, the people were so welcoming, and the way they shake hands, there's a way that's more endearing, I think, than just, hey, how are you? It's not like that.
No,
it is.
No.
Look you in the eye and tell you how happy you are to meet that person.
Yes. By taking both your one hand, we'll take in both hands. So that's part of the tradition. Well, it is absolutely incredible.
You gave us a lot of statistics while we were gone, and I loved all of them. I just hung on every word. And one of them was, if I'm doing this correctly, that for every person that visits Africa, one job is created. Did I say that correctly?
I'd say every person that visits Africa, you're on the correct path. Okay. 8 jobs are created. 8.
Oh my gosh. Yes. That's
so just
better.
So just you that came, and you were on the trip. We were 18 of us. So I would put 8 people with one person per person. And that's how important it is for Africa.
And I think that, how do you visit Africa one bite at a time? I mean, it is an enormous
Yes.
undertaking. Like I could have never figured out how to do the tour that we were on. You
Yes.
have to do a tour like what Collette provides and creates. It is so well orchestrated and so well curated with all the little special nuances, like my
Yes.
t-shirt. How cute
I
is
love your
that?
t-shirt. Oh my
It's
goodness,
got
that's so cool. That
it's
is
so cool. It
beautiful.
has all the big five animals, and then it
And
has a paw print
oh
here,
man,
and then it has the
the
Botswana flag or the
flags.
Zimbabwe flag
Yes,
on the
correct.
shoulder, and there's a thing on the back, but I'm not going to get up. But
It's beautiful.
there's so much. I brought home so many carved animals and carved bowls from the
Oh,
local
yes.
people
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's how they earn their living, you know?
absolutely. Yes. And something to know is that with tourism, it's actually the fastest growing, economic sector at the moment for
Really?
most,
Okay.
yes. So it is a huge job creator. And most countries, in fact, all countries in Southern Africa with tourism are very dependent on it because it is growing very fast. Mhm.
That is fabulous. And they do such a great job for us though.
Yes,
That's
yes,
the other part. It's not, I mean, they put their heart and soul into making us comfortable, into creating these incredible experiences. An elephant sanctuary. We got to feed
yes.
the elephants.
Oh my goodness,
Oh, what?
that was a highlight. Oh man. That was incredible. At the end when I hugged the elephant,
Yes. It was
it was
so
just
cute.
like,
Cute.
I,
It's not cute. It's freaking
I
amazing.
know, just to get to hug it and, just, yeah, it was beautiful. A great
And then
experience.
we went to Victoria Falls, one of the seven natural wonders of
Yes,
the world.
yes.
Remarkable. I have literally wanted to go there almost my whole life.
Wow. Wow. And you
And
did.
and I did.
You finally got to do it.
I
And
did.
if it is on your bucket list, and I cannot see how Africa cannot be on your bucket list. It's got to be one of those that you can, because then you're close to completing all the continents. But it is amazing just to get to see it, like the
Well,
Victoria Falls. Yeah.
it's interesting. So I have shared a lot of my pictures on Instagram and on Facebook. And without exception, every comment is my bucket list. I've always wanted
Yes.
to go there. My
Yes.
bucket list. And so my advice to people is don't wait.
Don't wait.
Don't
I
wait.
tell you, we take too much time in overthinking it,
Yes.
where you should actually do it and say, I've done it.
Mhm.
Because I know a number of travelers that have come back. I think maybe I know one that's actually done the same trip maybe 9 times. That's how, connected you get. You like take a piece of Africa with you
It's
and you
true.
got to come back. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm not being corny. I have thought about it, this trip and these people and you and Africa
Oh,
every
thank you.
single day
Yes,
since
thank
I've
you.
been
We
home. And
miss you all, It's
Craig and
like
I,
one and the way you become a family on this trip is just amazing.
I was sad.
It
I was
is sad
really
to get to
sad
leave.
to
Yeah,
leave. Do
yeah.
you think that uh, I mean, what can we do here to share information? I think this podcast is going to be a great introduction for a lot of people so they
Or
understand that this is doable, right?
yes, yes,
How can
absolutely.
how can we help Africa? What's the best thing we can do?
There's so many ways. I think the most important one would be being ambassadors, having calm and
Okay.
being ambassadors for Africa and telling Africa's story is number one.
Hmm.
You know, how much people need you to come.
Yes.
It's a big thing. It's huge. And just going out there and telling more people. The only way you can get to come to Africa is by telling somebody about this journey. And the more we can get word out there that we're waiting for you, and that's how we change people's lives. And then once you're here, you can always then, connect the dots and figure it out how best you want to uh, help Africa and contribute to Africa. But the best now would be spread the word around, spread it
Well, I
around
agree.
so more people can come and just have this amazing experience. I wish I
Yes.
could, just uh, help you more,
Yeah.
to tell people about Africa. But yeah, I think that's the only way we can do it is tell people more about it.
We didn't mention, but we had a wonderful person with us named Cal who works with Collette.
Oh,
And he's
yes,
a photographer and
yes,
videographer.
yes,
And he doesn't know I'm going to talk about him, but he was fantastic. And he took so many lovely videos, and
yes,
he has such a job ahead of him to create
edit.
many videos about our experience. So I know they are going to be flooding the market because it was so remarkable that I just want everyone to hear about
Yes,
it and to watch
yes.
those videos.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And for us here on the ground, we're so excited when we get to know you're coming and we get to know travelers are coming, because the journey alone from the beginning, it is just wow, from the time you arrive to the very end, to take you on that journey, and it's just an amazing experience. Yeah.
Well, it is. And
Yes.
I can't say enough. And I love that I am authentically sharing my Africa experience with people, anyone who will listen, honestly, because I could talk for days about
Yes.
everything that happened to us. And we've only scratched the surface on this tour, but their website does a great job, and
Yes.
people can go to my Instagram.
Yes.
We have with this podcast episode, I do a summary about what we talk about, and then I put all the links in it.
Yes.
So everyone doesn't say, well, where do I go? Where do I go? They can just go to adventuresofemptynesters.com/podcast, and that will take you right to
there.
the summary page, which has everything there. And I thank you so much for beginning the podcast and sharing your story with us. I don't think too many people have heard a story like yours. Honestly, that's a book.
Thank you.
Whenever you stop touring,
I told you,
write your story.
When I met you, I said I want to write a book.
Yes.
And I really want to.
I'm dead serious.
Remember how we went around the wilderness? I was actually looking for a title for it, but it is actually something that I would like to do, because 27 years in the industry, and the journey alone is really, I'm so eager to get to put it down and just write about it, so that people can see it through my eyes, and what's kept me there. And it has been amazing.
Well, I would be first in line to read your book.
Good. Yes.
Well, Samantha, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And for making our tour the most incredible travel experience of our lives.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated this time with you. And I look forward to you coming back.
Well, I really do. I absolutely have to. Thank you, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.